vai chegar a 2022 rebolando pelo morro abaixo. Everyone, how are you? Get your cameras on, please. Ready to start. Make sure you start checking in. All right, we got 20 attendees already checked in. We still have almost 10 to go. Come on, make sure everybody checks in, please. All right, let's see who checked in. All right, Edith, you're good. Tatiana, you're good. So we're still missing a few. All right, we got 7 to 10. Guys, make sure you guys scan this so you can check in, or go to goeasy.me and put the session ID. No, Tatiana, I'm wrong. You're not checked in yet. No. To confirm. No. Who else is? Tatiana, you're not in. Edith, you are. Nice. You are. Anna, you are as well. All right, Paula, no problem. Just make sure you are scanned in. You are, okay? Okay, Antar, I'm having an issue on my end. I left my personal phone at home. I'm trying to get in. All right, so if you left your phone at home, go to this website then. And you should give your username and password. All right, question from Anna. Do you have to pay HOA fees and taxes when you get into a co-op? See, a co-op does not have HOA fees. A co-op, the building has the fees. What they do is they share those fees to you. If it's a condo, then you have individual fees. So in the condo, you have your personal taxes, you have your personal insurance, your personal mortgage, everything is to you, and then you share the HOA fees, which are the common areas. In the co-op, no. In the co-op, you just have a big bill that covers taxes, insurance, maintenance, common areas, everything. Okay. All right, still missing a few check-ins. Come on, guys. We can start the class. You checked in already, right, Katya? Alright, Antara took care of you already. Don't worry about it. Who else? Here yet? Alright, some of you are already took care of. Alright, don't worry, Antara, I already took care of that. Alright, Edith says, I did your part 1 quiz on YouTube and I did okay. What's okay? Edith, what's okay? Hey Sanam, how are you? You had 8 wrong, Edith? Not bad. So you ready to take the test right now? You want to do it? Alright, coming up soon. Coming up soon. Alright, YouTubers, if you have any questions, make sure you ask. I think we are ready to start. Contracts. Alright, before we start, make sure you guys have your cameras on, please. Whoever's doing this for the first time. Ed, don't worry, I got you. Carly, send a chat. What do you want me to send chat? You want me to send the chapters? Okay. Took you 3 tries to write chapter? Hey, Mr. Piga, next time you come to the office, don't forget to say hi to people, just saying. Let's see here, chapter 14. Oh. All right, guys. So I just shared on the group chat. I just shared the chapters. Some of us have to work. I was watching you guys. I saw how you guys were working, just standing up here in the entrance. Right, I saw how it was. Zaki, are books still available to order? Yes. Legia, got my book. Perfect. Anybody wants the physical books, you can still order them. Just send me a message separately and I'll give you the link to order just a book. Okay? All right. Now, guys, we are looking at overview of conveyance contracts. But didn't we have a chapter on this already? Didn't we have a chapter on contracts already? We did, right? What's the difference between that chapter and this chapter? Shanae, I have it right here on the screen right now. What is the difference between that chapter and this chapter? The difference is that we're talking about conveyance contracts. So before, we talked about the basic laws of contracts. So contract law, those are the basics, the essentials, right? Speaking of which, what are the essential elements to a valid contract? Anybody? This instructor sucks, always asking questions before you even start teaching. Horrible. Don't go back to your notes. If you remember, you remember. If you don't, you don't. It's fine. Don't go back to your notes. Just throw it at me. The essential or the basic elements to make a contract valid. So what do we have here? We have sound mind and legal age. So that means we're competent parties. Very good. We have mutual consent, which is offer and acceptance, agreeing to all the terms. We have, what else? Legality, says Anna. So legality of the object or the purpose of the contracts. It has to be for a legal purpose. Yes. And we're missing one. Value, Calvin's and Janice. So it's we're talking about consideration, value, exchange of value. Very good. Now there's one person that wrote something that is not a requirement. Who wrote signature? Okay. Is signature required? No, I know it was you, iCarly. The point was, is signature required? Signature is not required. Okay. What is required is the four essential elements: competent parties, offer and acceptance, consideration, and legal purpose. Okay. Because other than that, we can have a verbal contract. Right? We can have a verbal contract. So if it's verbal, where are we going to sign, Carly? Where are you going to sign that verbal contract? Okay? So a signature is not essential. Now, if we're talking about conveyance contracts, a signature might be essential. Why? Because for conveyance contracts, we might have to put it in writing. Right? We might have to put it in writing. And if it's in writing, then obviously there must be a signature. So here comes the question. I know some of you are ready to yep, there you go. And Tarvis, I didn't even ask the question. I knew somebody had it written already. What does this mean? Conveyance. Transfer. How many times can I repeat this, huh? Transfer. Very good. So the difference between the previous chapter of contracts, right? The previous chapter contracts and this one is that this is specifically for transfer of real estate. So conveyance is for transfer of real estate from one person to another. So conveyance contracts. Okay? Now, let's start with contracts for sale. A lot of stuff should be already familiar to you because we addressed it either in the beginning of the week or last week. By the way, we're almost halfway through the course. Nice, right? Almost halfway. All right, contracts for sale. The legal characteristics of the contract creation, earnest money escrow, contract contingencies, and defaults. So there are some terms that you guys are going to learn today that you have to be able to associate immediately once you see it. YouTubers, if you have questions, you're always welcome to ask them. So the real estate sales contract is a binding and enforceable agreement wherein the buyer, the vendee, agrees to buy identified parcel of real estate, and the seller, the vendor, agrees to sell it under certain terms and conditions. It is the document that is at the center of the transaction. So the sales contract is the document that is at the center of the transaction. Question. What does this word mean? Parcel of real estate. You asked me this. Everybody's saying land. Just land? Land is the surface. Land is the earth. Just land? Be proper. All right. Piece of land. Not just land, it's a piece of land. So each parcel is a separated lot that's separated from the other. So the land that I own is a parcel, right? It's a separate piece of land that I own. Okay, so every time we see parcel, we are talking about land, yes. Okay, talking about land, yes. But the land that we own, it's a parcel, it's a piece of land. Sorry. Whoever did not check in yet, please do so right now. All right. Good. So, pretty much what we're saying is that the real estate sales contract, right, is the document that is at the center of the transaction for the transfer or conveyance of a piece of land. That's pretty much a summary of this part, right? Now, the conventional transfer of real estate ownership takes place in 3 stages. First, there's a negotiation portion where we put offers, we go back and forth, right? Then we have, so this is the first part. The second part is where we accept all the terms, right? So first is negotiating. Second is accept all the terms. So the offer now becomes a contract, right? What was once, hey, I would like to do this, now becomes, this is what we're doing, all right? And third, the third stage is what I just went through a couple minutes ago, closing of a transaction. Okay? At this stage, the sales contract has served his purpose and terminates. You guys know another term for served its purpose and terminates? Do you guys remember? When the contract ends, when it terminates, do you guys remember what it means? Or a word that defines it? Fulfillment? Oh, hold on. Void. Why would it be void? Void means it has no value. Anna for the win. Executed. Served its purpose and terminates. Okay? It's executed. It's done. Completed. Fulfilled. All right? Clearly. All right. So, we have executory contract and we have executed contract. What does executory mean? Who can tell me? Executory. Executed, we got it. It's done. Finished, right? What does executory mean? Wafa, correct, but what does it mean under contract to close? It's that period of time where the contract is, thank you guys, pending. Yes. So a sales contract is pending contract. Why? Because we're still waiting for appraisals, we're still waiting for inspections, we're still waiting for confirmation that the buyer is approved to buy, we're still waiting on clearing the title, and then we get to the closing table, right? We sign the documents and boom, executed. So right now, we are in the executory stage. So before it's accepted, it's just an offer. Nothing. Once it's accepted, we go under contract, it becomes executory. Okay? We reach the closing table a month, 2 months, 3 months later. We reach the closing table, we sit down, sign the paperwork, executed. Okay? Okay, Gloria, I got it. All right, so signatures. It's not highlighted, but you guys should remember this by now. Do you guys remember homestead, dower and courtesy, or what was the other one? The electric chair, something like that? Elective shares. I call it electric chair, so it's easier to remember. But elective share between wife and husband, correct. So, if you're single, you're the only person required to sign. If you're married, the other party might have to sign, depending if you're in a state that allows dower and courtesy still, right? Or if you're if you purchase together, right? And if you're not married, but you bought it with somebody else, we talked about tenants in common, we talked about joint tenants, right? If you're trying to sell the property, anybody that's named in the deed, right? So everybody that's named on the deed, anybody that owns the property must sign the documents. That's what we say here. Okay? Enforceability criteria. In case you guys did not know the essentials right here. Wafa, who signs? So the seller signs or the grantor signs the deed only. All other documents are signed by both parties, both the sellers and the buyers. Okay? The deed is the only one that the grantor sign. The grantees or the buyers do not sign the deed. All right, to be enforceable, to enforce a contract, it must be validly created. What does that mean? You guys already know: mutual consent, consideration, legal purpose, competent parties. And if you have competent parties, that brings you to a free voluntary act without any undue influence, meaning you're not being forced into something. Now, because it is for the transfer of real estate, you must be in writing. It must identify the principal parties. So who are the people that are involved in this transaction? You must clearly identify the property, preferably by legal description. It must contain the purchase price and be signed by the principal parties. Now, some of you already have this answer, so go ahead. What is the legal description? What are the three methods of legal description? Meets and bounds, that's one, great. Survey, what does that mean? All right, somebody wrote government survey, yes. That's not a legal description. That's consideration. And block and lot, perfect. These are the three methods of legal description that must be included in any deed or sales contract, right? Or even in a mortgage must be included. It's the meets and bounds, it's the government survey method or rectangular survey system, and the plat method or the lot and block method, right? They're the same thing. So every contract must include this. Now, written versus oral. Written versus oral contracts. A contract for the sale of real estate, this is in green, so it's very, very important. If it's for the sale of real estate, is enforceable only if, okay, it's enforceable only if it is in writing. Okay? So a contract for the sale of real estate, for the sale, we're not talking about leasing, we're not talking about renting, we're talking about the sale. Contract for the sale of real estate is only valid, or enforceable, I'm sorry, is only enforceable if it is in writing. If it's a lease, you might not need to put it in writing. But if it's the sale or transfer of real estate, it must be in writing to be enforceable. Then we have something called assignment. What is the word assignment? Assignment means, look, I really like this property, but I cannot buy the property right now. Would you like to take over? Pretty much what it is. It's me transferring the rights and the obligations to the purchase of this property. Okay, so I'm transferring to you. It's an assignment. Okay, assigning the rights and obligations. The thing is, it's subject to provisions and conditions contained in the agreement. Usually, you cannot assign, guys, make sure you're paying attention to this screen, not anybody else around you, please, or other screens. But what this means is that you cannot assign the contract unless the seller agrees to it. Right? So usually all contracts have a restriction that say it's not assignable unless the seller agrees to it. Usually that's the first condition. That's why sometimes wholesaling, which is assignments, wholesaling is difficult to do because you got to get permission from the seller to wholesale or to transfer to somebody else. You're literally telling the seller, hey, I'd like to buy your property, but in case I don't buy, I'm going to have somebody else buy it for me. Is that okay? That's pretty much what you're doing. If I cannot buy or if I don't buy, I have a list of buyers, right, that I work with, other buyers, other investors I work with, that might buy for me. Is that okay? If they say yes, you put your name and or assignees as an example, because people that you potentially will assign to, right? So that's assignment, transfer. No, it's the other way around. You're the seller, I'm the buyer. Okay? I'm buying from you, but I decided I don't want to buy anymore. So I'm going to bring somebody else to buy for me. So now you're dealing with that third party that I bring. Okay? Say it again? Well, I'm out of the assignment as far as the transfer itself, but liability, I still hold liability. We talked about this the other day. If there's an assignment, there's primary and secondary liability. So let's say I bring Ligia. I bring Ligia to buy your property. It was supposed to be me, but I said, you know what? Not right now. So Ligia is equally qualified to buy your property, Katya. Are you okay with that? So now it's between the both of you. But if Ligia does not buy, right? If Ligia does not buy, then I'm responsible as well. Both of us get sued. Okay, so assignments transfers liability, but I keep secondary liability. So if you don't buy, I have to buy. Okay? And if I don't buy, both of us get sued. Simple. All right, Antar is asking, can I charge someone for the assignment as the middleman? The answer is yes, you can, because I'm the one with a contract. And by the way, it's such a great deal. That's what it is. Such a great deal that, Ligia, if you want to buy this property, I just want $5K. I'll give it to you. I'm already in the process. But if you want to buy it, I'll give it to you. So Antar, I'm going to charge Ligia, the potential buyer, I'm going to charge a $5,000 fee for that transfer, as an example. That's called wholesaling. That's what a lot of people do. A lot of, especially beginning investors do. They don't have the money to buy a property, fix it, and flip it, right? Usually the easiest way, the cheapest way to get involved in real estate is to do wholesaling. You put a property under contract, find somebody interested in that property, and charge a fee to release the contract. That's what it is, right? Which is very dangerous. Very rewarding because little to no money in, but very dangerous because if Ligia does not buy, I get sued as well. So I got to make sure that buyer is ready to buy, right? They're willing to buy and they're able to buy. All right, Carly, but then you can get property from the third party. What do you mean? I lost you. Sanam, yes, you're right. Transfer from one party to another is called an assignment. Yep. Antar, unless you have an out clause. Yes. I think we might talk about it in a little bit. But yes. Carly, if you're still liable, do you have the rights to okay, so let's say Ligia does not buy. Can I say, you know what, since you're not buying, I will buy? Can I go back on it? Well, I was the original party that had to buy, so yes, I might have the opportunity to do so. So there's and I'm speaking briefly about it, about wholesaling. I don't want to dwell too much in it because as a realtor, it's not, or a salesperson, it's not your position to be a wholesaler. You can do both, right? The difference is, are you a private party or are you representing somebody else, right? Are you the investor or are you the realtor? You need to know where you are. But wholesaling, one of the reasons I don't like those weekend free courses, right? They announce on the radio, they announce on TV, hey, New Jersey is a perfect market for this and for that, whatever. Come join us at the Hilton, come join us at the Holiday Inn, come join us at the Marriott for a weekend to get free education on how to get involved in real estate, right? They're great. But they jam-pack so much info into a weekend that you guys get overwhelmed. And one of the things you don't realize is exactly what I told you. When they tell you that wholesaling is the easiest, cheapest way to get into real estate, when they tell you that and they give you the hints on how to do things, right? They also tell you that it's very dangerous if your end buyer is not ready, or if you don't prepare the right contract. So then they offer you, which is okay, nothing wrong with that. But then they offer you, hey, for $299 or whatever, you guys can have access to all the contracts and this and that. Great. For $20,000, we could be your mentor. Great. For $80,000, I'll be right there next to you doing the deals with you. Nothing wrong with that. The thing is, the people that don't take advantage of the upsells, right? The people that don't take advantage of those, usually they get the information, they go research on Google, they download just a random form that says assignment without, like Antarso mentioned, without the escape clause. Without the, hey, I transfer it to you, Legia, and if you don't buy, it's on you. Seller, you cannot come after me. Just go after Legia and that's it, right? So without any type of protection, and people get stuck. We are now in the market, so you guys know, I'll deal with a lot of wholesalers. As an investor for the past 16 years, I deal with a lot of wholesalers. Now, we are in the market where there was a wholesaling boom, meaning anybody, right, and everybody decided to become a wholesaler or a pseudo investor. The thing is, they were bidding on properties above market price, or reasonable prices, as we define the maximum allowable offer that we'll give on a property, right? And then they're difficult to wholesale to other people, because as an investor, I'm going to look at your deal and I'm like, oh, there's not even enough room there for me to make $1,000. Why would I buy it from you, go through all this headache of rehabbing the property to make $1,000? Or $5,000 or $10,000 is still not enough, right? So it doesn't make sense. So now these wholesalers, they're stuck, and they don't have, what Antar mentioned before, an escape clause. So they're stuck with the deal. Or if they're buying at sheriff sale, for instance, they've put the 20% down payment, which you need to do at the sheriff sale as an example. They're stuck with the 20% there that they might lose it all because they can't give it to anybody else. It's not a deal for anybody. It was for you because in your mind made sense and you kept bidding. This is great. Anybody will buy properties. No, not like that. So I just wanted to mention briefly what assignment was. It's wholesaling if you charge a fee for it, but it's also very risky if you don't do things right. It's the only way, by the way, assignment or wholesaling is the only way you can get involved in real estate and get paid a fee, right, without having a license. It's the only way to legally getting paid a fee without having a license. Okay? Now, contracts. Who may complete contracts? Well, the broker or the agent may assist the buyer and seller in completing the offer. Okay? And we do this, if you guys remember, we do this on standard forms. Standard forms presented by the state or approved by the state. Offer and acceptance. I'm sure you guys remember this. Offer and acceptance is I make an offer, you accept. If you don't, but you tell me different terms, it's called a counter offer. Counter offer is also called what? When you see a counter offer, what do you call it? Anybody remembers what I called a counter offer? Robin, reject. That's it. Jaquana, perfect. Rejection. Yes. Every time somebody counters, they reject. Every time somebody counters, they reject. Therefore, we can walk away without any obligations to the contract. So if I put an offer and you say no, I walk away. If I put an offer and you say, hey, I like your offer, but let's change this a little bit. Any little change, it's a counter. Every counter is a rejection. For those of you yawning, there's always coffee. Yeah, well, on the way. I had a closing. I could afford Starbucks now. All right. It was not even my closing. I went for somebody else just to represent. It was $10.08 because I also brought for Pedro. A lot of money. It's a down payment. All right, sangria. No, it's coffee. After maybe. Does Sandra just write allergy? You're allergic to Starbucks? Is that what it is? Or to closings? Which one is it? I'm lost. Wafa, what does it mean reject or offer account? Offer account or counter offer? Wafa. Talking about. Oh, Sandra, you're saying you're sleepy. Pretty sure that everybody else is going to follow that one. I have allergies. I'm sleepy. The curtain. That's the example of the curtain. Perfect. So Wafa, what is a counter offer? So I want to buy your house. I want to buy your house. I'm going to make you an offer. Right? And the offer, if you guys remember the other day, the offer I said $200,000 plus drapes because I like your curtains. I like the way you have it. I really like how it reflects in the house, all that. I want to keep them. That's my offer. And you tell me, Bruno, I'll take your 200,000, but no curtains, no drapes, no nothing. Just the 200,000. You get 4 walls, and you should be happy for that, right? The moment you took the drapes out or the curtains, whatever you want to call it, the moment you took those out of the contract, it's a counter offer. It means I offered and you said no. This is what I want. So counter. When it goes back and forth until we decide what we agree to. The counter offer. Okay. The reason why I call it rejection is because you told me no. I'm not giving you the drapes. The moment you said no to something, I can walk away. Right? So today at closing, as an example, by the way, this could happen even at closing. Today at closing, we did the final walkthrough of the property earlier. There was a slight issue there with the property that was not resolved. So at closing, the buyer said, hey, there's this issue. Got to be fixed or got to give me money because I have to fix it. Right? Even at closing doesn't mean you closed. Until you receive the keys and the other party receives and you give the check to the other party, we're not closed. So it's not closed until it closes. Just like that. At the closing table, they could have said, you know what, if they're not fixing this, then I'm not buying. I'm walking away. You guys understand? Even at closing, that could happen. And the other side could have said, what, they want more money? You know what, I'm not selling anymore then. It could happen. All right, Antar says, this sucks for the agent then. Absolutely. Sanam, I saw your question already. I'll address it in a second. So absolutely, sucks for the agent. Guys, we're independent contractors, so be ready for this stuff. If you have 10 deals pending and you close 7, you're successful. Okay? Very successful. So remember that. There's always going to be something that falls through along the way. There's always something. Unfortunately, doesn't matter if you're the best agent in the world. If you're closing roughly 70% of the contracts, you are amazing. Got it? If you're closing 30% of the contracts, now we got to look at your strategies. What's missing here? That's what it is. But there's always a chance for somebody to lose their job. There's always a chance property does not appraise. There's always a chance that there's damages to the property that doesn't make sense for the buyer to buy anymore. Right? You guys understand? So there's always that there. So it's on us to develop, if you guys remember, under agency and even first chapter, it's on us to develop the skills, the necessary skills, to look at the conditions of the property and give a value to the property. So Like I explained to my client, our client today, I explained to them. Very easy. You're buying a house for $500,000. The house is your mortgage is going to be $3,086. There's 3 rentals, and those 3 rentals are $1,200 each on average. Yeah, you're still living for free because you have the 4th unit. So the numbers make sense. Even if you leave tomorrow, right? If you leave tomorrow, you're going to have an additional rent. So now you're going to be at $4,800 when your mortgage is $3,000. That's $1,800 a month in your pocket. There's people in New Jersey that don't make that money a month. And you're going to make it passive, right? It's not like you have to work for it. It's there, passive. So numbers are numbers. Does that make sense? There's issues with the property, yes. She could walk away from the deal, yes, absolutely. Considered at one point, but the numbers are there, right? Anyway. You gotta get to a point where you can evaluate all the pros and cons and be able to explain to your client, these are the pros, these are the cons. Simple. All right, Sanam has a question on YouTube. What is equitable title? Equitable title. Okay. Equitable title. What is the difference between equitable title and legal title? Does anybody know? Absolutely. Dobson, money in equity. So there is value. You have value in the property. That's equitable title. Legal title. You have your name in the property. Okay? Yep, that's it. Legal title, it's yours. It's your name. Equitable title, you have rights to it. Like when I put an offer on the property, if the offer is accepted, right? At this moment, it's like I'm the owner of the property. Meaning, seller, let's say Chaz, you're the seller, you cannot sell the property because we're under contract. You cannot sell to anybody else. I have equitable title. My name is not there, right? My name is not there. This property belongs to Chaz. Chaz has the legal title. I have equitable because I put an offer, you accepted. So now I have a value in the property. Okay? That's the difference. Equitable title and legal title. Sanam, let me know if you got it. If you sue to anybody else, if you sell to anybody else, I can sue you for that money. Or force the transfer because I have value in the property. Like a mortgage company. When they lend money to you, they have equitable value in the property. They have equity in the property, so they have equitable title. You cannot sell the property until you pay off the mortgage. They do not own the property, you do. They do not own the property, you do. Okay? Victor, so I would have equitable title if I'm wholesaling? Yes, absolutely. You put $1 into that property, that's it. You put no dollars into the property because you're under contract, you have equitable value. Equity, value, yep. All right, what about earnest money? Earnest money escrow, what does that mean, guys? Stacy, good faith, yep. So earnest money, good faith deposit. Okay? So earnest money deposit or good faith deposit, that's what it means. Say it again. Go ahead, Anthony. No, that's earning money. That's earning. Here, when we talk about earnest money deposit, is simply, guys. So when we talk about earnest money deposit, it's simply a good faith deposit. I'm putting $10,000 with the offer, $10,000 with the offer, because I'm serious about buying your house. But you know what? If you feel at one point that I'm not serious, right? Or if I decide to walk away, you're safe. Because I put a deposit of $10,000. So the worst case scenario, you, the seller, walks away with $10,000. That's what a good faith deposit is. Right? Much like the security deposit in the rental. The security deposit is, hey, if I breach the contract, the leasing contract, if I breach it, then landlord, you get to keep my money. That's what it is for. Okay? Now, is this mandatory? Earnest money deposit or good faith deposit?
No.
Say it again? No. That's right. So this is an agreement between the buyer and the seller. Can I put $1,000? I can. Can the seller say, hey, $1,000, that's it? No, give me $10,000. They can. We have to accept it? No. But what does that mean? It means you're not buying that house. Move to the next one. All right? A lot of sellers, especially today, in today's market, because there's so many buyers out there, especially in today's market, they want to make sure that you are serious, right? So the higher deposit, the better the chance of you getting the property. Like it's a solid deal. They see that you're not going to lose the deal because of money. You got the money. So let's assume, for instance, that the down payment is $20,000. Why not, just as an example, why not put $10,000 now in escrow, right? And then once contract is approved or at some point in the future, you give another $10,000. Why wait until closing? Let's get rid of it right away because we're buying. We got the money, right? If you don't have the money, you put less, right? But now it's like an iffy buyer. They don't have the money now. What guarantees me, the seller, that they'll have the money later, right? So this is what we're seeing now. The higher the down payment, I'm sorry, the deposit, the higher the deposit, the stronger the offer. Serious? Put more money down. Certain areas, like here in Newark, for instance, Harrison, Kearney, Jersey City, where these are, there's not much inventory, but there's a high turnover, meaning there's a lot of buyers, so the properties fly off the shelf from one day to the other, right? Then you want to put as much as you can right up front. Because think about it, if the deal does not go through, money comes back to you. So what do you have to lose? It's your money. Instead of being in the bank account, it's going to be in the escrow account. Wafa, I think I just explained. So if the deal does not go through, you get your money back. To be forced? You cannot be forced. It's not mandatory. What do you mean? So what I just told you right now is what I tell buyers. I recommend all the agents to tell buyers, which is talk to your buyer, tell them to show you the money. Show you the money. If you're serious, and by the way, as an investor, that's what we do. That's one of the things I recommend. Always have a title company that you work with and leave the money there. It's called an evergreen deposit. That means title company is going to vouch that the money's there, right? It's not with you as a buyer. It's with the title company. So it's guaranteed that if you move forward, the money's already there, set aside for that transaction, right? I had a deal that we purchased 2 years ago now. It was $75,000, right? It was a cash deal, $75,000. The first thing I said to my partner at the time, the first thing I said was, let's wire the $75,000 to the title company. Let's show how serious we are. It's not an issue of money. It's an issue of closing. We can close tomorrow. The money's here. As long as it clears title, inspections, and everything else, we're good, right? So we were the strongest deal. We got the property that was for 100,000. We got it for 75, 102 or something. We got it for 75 because the money was right there. You guys understand? It's not right there in my account. It's right there in the title company. Carly, do they have equitable title? Anybody that has an interest in your property, okay, has equitable title. There's value. Anybody. So as soon as I put an offer, even if no money, I put an offer and you accept it, I have equitable value immediately. Okay? As long as there's a contract, I have equitable value. Sanam, if buyer lost the job later, seller can give the escrow money? Or get. Give or get. So here's the thing about escrow monies. If you lose your job purposely, right? If you quit your job or something, it's guaranteed you're not seeing that money. That's the first thing. If you lost your job because of the economy or something like that, because of the layoffs, whatever it might be, right? If you lost your job for a valid reason, then now it's a matter of understanding. It's a matter of negotiations, right? Because again, is it the seller's fault that you, the buyer, lost your job? No. So it goes back to the attorneys, go back to agreements. It becomes another offer and acceptance. Say, hey, I got to walk away from the deal because I cannot buy anymore, right? So that's why we're going to talk about later in conditions or contingencies. If you expressed specifically that I'm buying this house if I get approved for a mortgage, right? If you express specifically, that's what you're going to do. That's part of the contract. These are conditions or contingencies, right? Then you might not be liable. So now you might not be liable if you lose your job and not able to move forward. Okay? But we're going to talk about that in a second. All right, going back to escrow. The sales contract provides escrow instructions for handling and dispersing escrow funds. The earnest money is placed in a third-party trust account or escrow, and the licensed escrow agent employed by a title company, financial institution, or brokerage company usually manages the escrow. An individual broker may also serve as escrow agent. We'll talk about escrow handling in the state portion in the final week, okay? Now, the escrow holder acts as an impartial fiduciary duty for the buyer or seller. If the buyer performs under the contract, then that deposit is applied towards the purchase price. So you get a credit at closing that says, hey, $10,000 were already deposited, and they still need 20 for a down payment. So 20 minus the 10 that's already in, what is the balance? All right, that's what you got to bring at closing. Wafa says, but this is too much work for the agent if the deal does not complete. Who pays for wasting time with clients? Great question. The question is, was it the client's fault? Did they do it on purpose? If they did it on purpose, you might be able to sue for damages. If not, if it's consequences of life, you know what? That's our business. It's a risk. You're independent. Look, here's what you guys got to think. Hold on. Here's what you guys got to think. If you open up a restaurant right now, Wafa, let's open up a restaurant. How much is it going to cost you? Let's say you're going to open up a restaurant. Decent, not a high-end restaurant. $65,000 to open up a restaurant? You're not considering having the animals and the vegetables and the juices and beers and the wines and all that stuff, right? You're not considering paying employees either, right? Because $65,000, who's going to work for you? Right? This is stuff that people have to take into consideration. I'm serious about it. Ed wrote 200. Okay, so we'll go with 200, right? $200,000. You're thinking that this is a risk, wasting time? Spend $200,000 and let me know when you're going to be successful in the restaurant business. Okay? Or open up an office I've opened up many offices. Some of you already know me from businesses that I've had, right? At one point, I had 24 employees. That's part of my costs. So, was I successful? In some of them, yes. In some of them, no. Just the way it is. It's a risk. Now, the good news, Wafa, is that this business, you're paying less than $1,000 to start, including the class. Licensing and being part of the National Association of Realtors, like to start, less than $1,000, or just about $1,000. Little to no risk, right? The other thing you have to put in is the same thing you'd put in with the restaurant, which is your time and effort. And hopefully, you make more money than you're wasting. Does that make sense, guys? Yes, it's a lot of risk. The paycheck today was $12,000. One deal. Not for me. I went there to help represent another agent that couldn't be there. $12,000. So $1,000 investment, wasting some of your time, right? If it closes, great. If it doesn't close, next. A $12,000 closing. This person that I went there for, this person last year closed 11 deals. This closing today was supposed to have happened in December. He would have made one deal a month. Is it that bad? Oh, by the way, a couple of deals did fall through. Didn't go anywhere. So he wasted time with a couple of these deals. You guys understand what I'm saying? It's not hard. You gotta fight for it. That's it. A loss? Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, oh, Wafa, I don't know if that's what you meant, but what you just wrote is exactly it. We're never wasting time. We're gaining experience. Okay? Simple. Oh, by the way, this guy that did 11 deals last year, it was his second year in real estate. And the first year he didn't do anything because he was in the wrong place. Nobody gave him support. He moved, 11 deals. Oh, and it wasn't more because pandemic came around. Oh, and he quit his job during the pandemic. Just saying. All right? You are what you put into it. Simple as that. All right, so next thing. Just giving you a little hope, right? A little hope that this business is possible. All right, sales contract contingencies. Next page, contingencies. This is a keyword. This means conditions. What we're going to talk about here real quick is I'll buy your house if this happens or if that happens. Okay? I'll buy your house if I get approved for a mortgage. I'll buy your house if the home inspection is satisfactory. I'll buy your house if it clears title. I'll buy your house and so on and so on. We put in conditions, contingencies. If these conditions do not apply, do I have to buy? If these conditions don't happen the way we predicted, do I have to buy? The answer is no. That's why it's a condition. If, okay? Like your employer, most of you are employed, right? If you work for somebody, they'll pay you if, right? You show up and do your work. So yes, Ruth, this is the big if. You do this, or if you do that, or if this happens, or if that happens. Yes. Douglas, yes, I was talking about Super Mario, yes. Douglas just sent me a message, yep. We call him Super Mario because he decided to grab the bull by the horns, and he did it. I mean, he's doing it. And he has already, right now he's in Uruguay. I went to a closing for him, and he has 3 or 4 deals pending right now while he's away. So he's going to come back to a couple of closings, hopefully. All right, next. Sales contract often contains right here, often contains contingencies. And a contingency is a condition that must be met before a contract is enforceable. Now, the most common contingency concerns financing, usually, which is most people either buying conventional or buying FHA or VA. Barely anybody buys cash. Okay. And by the way, I mean, doesn't matter what kind of deal it is. We're going to talk about that in investments in chapter 18. There's something called leverage. Don't put all your money into something. Leverage your money. So how do you leverage that? By getting financing. Which brings another point. I'm not obligated to buy if financing does not approve it. But at least I'm seeing the property. Okay? So a buyer makes an offer contingent upon securing financing or the property under certain terms or on or before a certain date. If unable to secure the specified loan commitment by the deadline, the buyer may cancel the contract and recover the deposit. So, Wafa, you asked? Here it is. Cancel, recover. An appropriate and timely loan commitment eliminates a contingency, and the buyer must proceed with the purchase. Now, it is possible for both buyers and sellers to abuse contingencies in order to leave themselves a convenient way to cancel without defaulting. To avoid problems, the statement of a contingency, the statement of contingencies should be explicit and clear, have an expiration date, and expressly require diligence in an effort to fulfill the requirement. So what we're saying is, as a buyer, we're putting an offer and say we'll do a home inspection within 10 days after attorney review, as an example. That means I put a clear expiration date of the first contingency, right? I have to do inspection within 10 days from attorney review. Okay, so if I don't do that inspection, right, the home inspection, if I don't do it, then I waived it. After the 10 days, there's nothing I can do. You guys understand? So the contingency has to have an expiration date. Within a certain amount of time, this must happen. Not open-ended. This amount of time. So every step of your process has to have a timeline. After everything is approved, hey, we preset the closing. So when we call this anticipated closing date, or ANCD, see on the MLS. Anticipated closing date to be on February 1st. It doesn't mean it's going to happen on February 1st, but we projected it to be February 1st. If nothing else fails, it should be enough time for us to close. But there are conditions, as we just went over, right? So if these conditions are not met, they can increase the time. All right, Anna, contingencies can be added at any time. No. Up front. Imagine if you step into Anna. Do you rent or own? Let me know if you rent or own. Just you own. Did you rent before? You did. Okay. So since you own, I'm gonna go back to renters, but to address that. Imagine that you go rent a spot and you tell your landlord, hey, I like it, but could you paint the walls white, right? The landlord does it. You walk in, you bring your furniture, and you go like, well, my lease is for 1 year, but landlord, I'll stay here if you put a chandelier, right? So you already moved in. Would you change the contract while you're there? Does it make sense? So conditions or contingencies must be put up front, not later. Contingencies, unless something showed up, like the inspection report. Let's say the inspection report says there's damage to the furnace. There's damage to the roof. If it's not something cosmetic, right, then that will be a condition. You can tell the seller, like you tell your attorney to send a letter to the seller that says, Mr. Seller, we will proceed with this if you fix the items that were found in the inspection. You guys understand? So that contingency that was added later was based on a previous contingency, right? Which is, if there's no issues, I buy as is. If there are issues, we might request to correct, or we cancel the whole deal. Okay. Wafa, you do the inspection after attorney review. We call attorney review also called cooling off period, which is the time. Every state has different timelines, but you put an offer, it's accepted, and then state of New Jersey, as an example, gives you 3 business days. The first 3 business days after the offer is accepted, that's the attorney review period. Okay? If attorney review period ends in the next 3 business days or 4 business days or 5 business days, once it ends, then it starts the inspection period. Okay? So you already signed the contract, seller accepted the contract, right? Now you got all this time to do so like 14 days, let's say, 14 days to do your inspections after you sign the contract and it's approved. And then, what if the seller needs time to move out? Is it up to the buyer to accept? Absolutely. Now, usually, by the way, the listing says, when do you take possession as a buyer? Usually at closing, usually. Unless, like Anna, like you're asking, if the seller needs more time. Yes, then we'll do what's called a use and occupancy agreement. These are legal terms you guys are going to learn later. But a use and occupancy agreement is where the seller and the buyer are agreeing that this is not a lease. This is me allowing the seller to stay a little bit longer, right? And paying me X amount of dollars in rent. But it's not an official lease. Like, hey, I allow you to stay a little bit longer if you need to. That's it. Okay, so yes, up to the buyer to accept. Great questions, by the way, guys. Sanam, I just saw your message. I appreciate that. If you're interested, definitely reach out to me. 908-418-8325. WhatsApp is my preferred method of communication. I got like 200 something messages on the regular messages to go over. Got a question? Shaking your head before. Oh yeah, but you take possession at closing, means you're supposed to receive keys at closing. But if the seller, like Anna was asking, if the seller asks for a little bit more time, it's up to the buyer to agree to it. So then you have a UNO, use and occupancy agreement. Yeah, well, it's the matter of request, yeah. Ruth, first of all, do not yell at me, Ruth, okay? We don't do that. She has it all caps. That's why she's yelling. But wait, I know she's yelling because she put all caps in the first part of it, says come again, like explain again, in caps, but everything else is lowercase. So this is definitely yelling. Anyway, so the 14 days I was telling you is, let me put it here real quick. This is not standard. We're just saying as an example, right? We have the offer. Okay. And the offer could be whatever days. If the offer is accepted, it's now under contract. Under contract, we got 3 business days. As an example, for the state of New Jersey, it's 3 business days. What are these 3 business days? We call this attorney review period. Okay? Some places calling it the cooling off period. This is where the seller or the buyer can cancel the deal just because. Cooling off period. So it's here we call it attorney review period, where you have the chance to bring it to an attorney if you want to, but it's also the period of time, the 3 business days, where the buyer or the seller can say, you know what? Nah, cancel this contract, let's move on to the next one, right? After attorney review ends, we have the inspection period. Now, the inspection period, I don't know, let's say I'm going to give you 10 days. So when I was saying when I said 14 days, it's like to make it easy, 2 weeks. That's what I was trying to say. You got 2 weeks pretty much for inspections. After that, mortgage, title, appraisal, everything else. But inspection, got to have that timeline right there. Usually 10 days right after attorney review. That's all I was saying. Okay, Ruth? Why? That's not for the state exam. I was just giving an example. Okay. Put that in your head. Go. Getting yelled at by messages. I getting yelled at over here. No respect. You guys still need me for another 2 weeks and a half, so at least. Okay, so no yelling. I think I'm fine. Everything. Oh, that's what you've been doing? You've been feeding me, so I treat you right? Always brings some type of snack for me. No. I know how this like. Thanks, Wafa and Carly. Thank you. Like, yeah, I might need you after 2 weeks. All right, I'm here. You guys got my number, which I'll change tomorrow. But you guys got my number. All right. All right, cool. So we were here. What do we have? A contract, a sales contract is bilateral. Guys, what is bilateral? Let me know. A lot of questions, a lot of review, right? 2 sides, great. What does that mean, 2 sides? Reversible? No. YouTubers, you're always welcome to communicate as well. Any questions you might have and answers. So you wrote buyer and seller, buyer and seller. What does that mean? So you're telling me if it's unilateral, there's no buyer or seller, there's just one of them? What does it mean, bilateral? Without reading, thank you. That's bilingual. Oh. Both parties what? Both parties what? Give me something else. Both party agrees? All of them agree. Elvira says both parties promise to perform. All right, we got somewhere. Thank you. Here we go. There's unilateral agreements and there's bilateral agreements. Unilateral is like an option to buy or a lease with option to buy or a rent to own, whatever you want to call it. Where it says, I'll buy your property a year from now. For now, I'm going to rent. The seller says, I'll sell to you if you exercise the option. So only one party must do something if the other party does something. So I'll do this if you do that. A bilateral agreement is where both parties promise to perform, meaning the seller will sell, the buyer will buy, and they'll do things, positive things towards the consummation of the transaction. So the seller is responsible for clearing title. The seller is responsible for inspections from the city, like CO, for instance, and smoke, right? The buyer is responsible for getting approved for a mortgage, to getting the appraisal done, to get the inspections done, and so on. Both of them are taking action at the same time. It's not like, hey, I'll wait for you. Once you're done, then I'll do my thing. No, that's a unilateral. Bilateral, both parties promise to do something. Take action. Take action well, it's not just take action at the same time, but both of them are doing something positively towards the transaction. Okay? So, just in case you guys missed it, Elvira had the answer right there. Even copy and paste it. Just messing with you. All right, what if the buyer defaults? What does it mean default? Well, they breach the contract. What if they say, hey, I'm walking away. I don't want to buy anymore, right? We're 1 month in, right? I'm laying in bed, all of a sudden I roll over and fall down and hit my head on the floor or on the counter, whatever it is that I'm gonna hit my head on, right? I would stand up and be like, I'm a little dizzy, I don't think I'm gonna buy anymore. Just because, right? That means you default. You're breaching the contract, the agreement we had, right? The seller can sue. Chaz, absolutely. So, any breaches entitles the seller to legal recourse for damages. I can sue you for money. Now, in most cases, the contract itself stipulates what the seller can or cannot do. The usual remedy is the buyer giving up, or forfeiting, as it says here, giving up the deposit. You guys remember the good faith deposit or the earnest money deposit? Right? All right, so that money that the buyer set aside, the seller gets. And this is called liquidated damages. The word liquidated damages means settlement. Okay, so liquidated damages. I keep the deposit as a settlement. So buyer, don't worry about it. I'll keep your $10,000, but I will not sue you for more. I'm keeping whatever's in escrow. I will not sue you for more money. Called liquidated damages. I'm settling for the deposit only. Okay? You guys need to remember this, because for me to sue for actual damages, sue for more money, I cannot touch the deposits, one or the other. So it's either, okay, it's either I get the deposit money or I sue for damages, for more. One or the other, never both. Remember that. One or the other, never both. Next, if the contract does not provide for liquidated damages, the seller may sue for additional damages, as I said, cancellation, or specific performance. Okay, does anybody remember what the words specific performance mean? The words specific performance? Anybody? Limited? Nope. Nope. Anna says you have to perform. I'm giving a performance of a lifetime. I'm right here. Always on stage. What does that mean? You have to perform. Right? For those of you laughing, I'm not taking it that way today. I'm being very zen. Okay? That means you have to buy or sell. Yes. You have to comply with the terms of the contract. If the contract says seller, you must sell. If the contract says buyer, you must buy. Then every time we say suing the buyer for specific performance, I'm forcing the buyer to buy. If I'm suing the seller for specific performance, I'm suing the seller to sell. That's what it is. It's specifically performing the terms of the contract. We talked about this in the contract chapter, in the basic contract. Okay. Guys, make sure your cameras are on. If your cameras are not on, it does not count towards your hours. Quick reminder. And it has to be pointed at you. Yes, I got 40 people on the screen, and I'm looking at every single one of you. Yes. Circling. I see you, Legia. I see. Love you too. All right. Like those. I received today, so you guys know, I received today a message from a student from a different school. He just passed, he or she, I'm not sure yet because I just got the message while I was at the closing. Passed the state exam, and it was thanking me for the videos that I put out on YouTube, right? And the comment was, our teacher really does not care, just reads the book, doesn't even look to see if anybody's paying attention. Goes right through. moneymaker. There's a lot of schools. Yeah, I waste my time, and some of you roll your eyes. Oh, come on, it's time to go. Sandra, you know the difference too, right? Carly says they have no love and affection. Carly, the love, yes. Affection, let's keep it professional. That's the beauty of this book. The way I'm using this book, love it. The beauty of this book is that we keep on touching stuff from, well, we just talked about love and affection. So we keep on going back to, we're not touching, we're going back to things that we talked about last week. All right, so I keep on going back and forth, and I think that's a great refresher of information. Now, this is a different publisher, but I'm writing my own book. I actually reviewed 3 different books before I decided on this one. Yep. All right, sales contract provisions. What are provisions? Hold on, Ruth says, for those in the back, want to hear it again. Those in the back? All right, providing. Provisions are providing? No, provisions are terms. Vivi's on the 10. So terms of the contract. So depending on the type of contract, they have different terms. If it's residential, commercial, foreclosure contracts, contract for new construction, contract for sale of land, exchange agreements, and so on. Now, what are the basic terms or provisions, the primary terms or provisions of a contract? Well, gotta include always the parties. That means who's buying, who's selling. Consideration, that means what? Value, right? And property. So we're talking about which property we are buying. Okay? Parties, consideration, property. They must be of legal age and have a capacity to contract. You guys already know. And we must include what? A legal description. Belinda, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Again? That you are a legal adult and of sound mind. Capacity to contract. So competent parties. You know it. You know what the question is. Give me the answers. Legal description. What are the 3 methods of legal description? So, Belinda, to answer what you wrote, and I appreciate that, I'm not the best out there, but I can guarantee you that I'm most committed. That I can guarantee. Not the best, but the most committed. All right, let's see. Survey, that's one of them. Meets and bounds, government survey method, meets and bounds, and plat. Perfect. Oh, all right. Do it again. Plat bound survey. That's a channel, PBS. Plat bounds survey. That's the next way to remember the legal descriptions. So price and terms. That's the other thing that has to be in the contract. Price and terms. Next, we have loan approval. We talked about it. Escrow closing possession dates. We talked about it. When are we closing? When do you get the property? Conveyed interest, title evidence. Let me skip all this stuff because I have another chapter for this. And go to page, all right, cool. Page 200. And in the middle of page 200, it says CLUE report. CLUE. Carly says my internet cut off during provisions. So provisions are terms. What I was showing you right now in provisions is that the basic provisions are the parties involved, consideration, meaning how much is getting paid in exchange for what, the property that's being purchased, right? We talked about legal descriptions. So these are things that must be in the contract, the basic things that must be in the contract. Okay. On page 200, guys, we have clue report. Now, what is clue report? Clue report stands for Comprehensive Loss Underwriting Exchange. Comprehensive Loss Underwriting Exchange. And you got it right here. Comprehensive Loss Underwriting Exchange. Yes. There is a question in the state exam, or might be. That's why this is in yellow. And this, before you write anything down, what I want you to remember is this. The question is going to be, which report, something to this effect, which report indicates claims, insurance claims against the property in the last 5 years? Which report indicates claims, or insurance claims, I'm sorry, against the property in the past 5 years? So the clue report is pretty much like the Carfax. Okay? It's like the Carfax, but because it gives you a report of potential accidents, right, or issues that the car has, right? Here is issues that the house might have due to insurance claims. So this is insurance claims history for the past 5 years. Okay? So why is this important? One, you cannot close without having this, because almost all transactions must include insurance of the property. For you to insure your property, the companies go through ChoicePoint, which is the database that keeps all these records. So that's your Carfax, right? Where they get the information is from ChoicePoint. Instead of Carfax, we have the clue report. The tricky part is that when they ask you, which report indicates insurance claims for the past 5 years against a specific property, they're going to give you 4 answers. 2, you can immediately scratch off, like definitely not these 2, it's obvious. But then 2 are going to be very similar. And I'm trying to show you this so you guys understand how the exam works. The other answer is going to be comprehensive loss insurance exchange. Now, I'll tell you this. The majority of times, the questions and the answers are obvious, right? This is one of those that, well, if they're asking for insurance claims, then I'm going to look at the comprehensive loss insurance exchange. The answer is no. What you're looking for is the underwriting exchange. What does that mean? Underwriting means risk assessment. So before somebody insures you or finances you, right, gives you money or insurance, they will analyze who you are and what property or properties you're trying to insure. That's called risk assessment or underwriting. Okay, so for insurance and for financing, risk assessment is called underwriting. That's why some people pay more in insurance than others. Okay? They're going to check, in this case, the property. So if you guys don't remember this, let's just look at the acronym. It doesn't even sound right if I say, right? Plie doesn't sound right, right? Not like you're doing ballet and do pliés or something. No, it's plie, it doesn't sound right. So if you have no clue what to answer, it's very simple. Get the clue report. That's it. If you have no clue what to answer, it's clue report. Okay? Look for the one that has the acronym clue. Carisha just wrote, love the Carfax analogy. Welcome. DJ Clue, there you go. DJ Clue. So this is no good. Okay, next page we have option to buy. Okay, so these all mean the same. Option to buy, rent to own, or lease option, they mean the same. Carisha, no, you cannot close without a clue because they have to insure the property. For them to insure the property, they need to pull the report. Sorry, what'd you say? If I like rent to own, that's how I started in real estate. I didn't have any money at all at the time. Lost my job, got separated, and got into a car accident, all in the same year. So I had no money whatsoever. The person that mentored me to get into real estate, that's how I started. He mentored me on lease options. So I love lease options because it started my career. Is that where you make a lot of money? No. But it made me enough money to love real estate. No, to love real estate, not to build up, but to love real estate. I still had to get a job at the time. I promised not to work for corporate America back then, but I still had to get a part-time at a restaurant at the time. So, but it was great. At one point, I was making 2 of these a month, so it was close to 10K a month. I had a couple of months where I made 3, but the average is. All right, so what is lease option? It's similar to car lease. That's what I want you to remember. Similar to car lease. So how does a car lease work? We talked about this already last week, right? How does a car lease work? We rent the car for 36 months, let's say, so for 3 years. And at the end of 3 years, you have the option to buy. Simple. Okay? So every time you see option to buy, you see rent to own or lease option, think about a car lease. You're renting and then you're buying if you want to. Because you have the option. Okay? Good? Thumbs up? Great. And that's pretty much what you need to remember. Because it's an option to buy, my question is this a bilateral or unilateral contract? Very good. It's a unilateral contract. Unilateral because right here, an option to buy is an enforceable contract in which a potential seller, the optionor, grants a potential buyer, the optionee, the right to purchase the property before a stated time for stated price and terms. In exchange for the right of option, we go back to option, the optionee pays the optionor valuable consideration. For those of you saying bilateral, let's go back to the car lease. At the end of 3 years, do you have to buy the car? You don't. But if you choose to buy the car, the seller must sell. So unilateral, because only one party must perform, which is the seller. The other one, the optionee, right? Well, if I choose to, 3 years from now, I really like the house, I want to keep it. Yeah, let's go. Right? So if I take action, then the seller must take action. Okay? If I take action, then the seller must take action. Same thing as insurance companies. Right? We talked about last week about contracts of adhesion, right? Because in a contract of adhesion, which is what the insurance company does, they are promising to pay claims if you get into an accident. They promise to pay if you die, right? If it's a life insurance. There's a promise. But for them to pay, you must do something. If you don't do it, we don't pay, right? It's different. Bilateral, both of us are doing something towards the goal. That's it. That's the difference. Bilateral, both of us are positively doing something towards that ultimate goal, whatever it is. To buy a house, to buy a car, to rent, whatever it might be. But a lease option or an option to buy or rent to own is a unilateral agreement because the buyer is not obligated to anything, only the seller. Only one party must perform. So unilateral, right here. Unilateral. It becomes a bilateral agreement if the buyer decides to buy. Until then, it's unilateral. Okay? Questions? Got it this time? You guys got it? Any questions? You're good or not good? Ruth just said, I do this if you do that. Exactly. I don't know what you're doing, but yes, sure. All right. All right. Some people are not on camera. Make sure your camera's pointing at you. Thank you very much. Please, you don't get in the camera. I need to be able to see you, not like, you know. But if you guys want to come here, I mean, I have space. You don't have to get in the camera. There's enough distance, in case you guys are worried, there's enough distance, and you can wear a mask. Katia is wearing a mask. Enough distance. Katia says, no, you guys stay there, okay? Said it. Legia says, I'm on PJs. It's okay. This is not a business environment right now. Oh, I mean, wait. Depending on the type of PJs, then no. You can stay home. Let me clarify that. All right, guys. We covered this. We covered that. No. And then on page 203, we have contract for deed. Now, contract for deeds is also called installment sales contract. It's also called land contract. And it's similar to car financing. So land contract or installment sales contract, and this is similar to car financing. Why is it similar to car financing? Because it says contract for deed. That means you're entering into a contract to get the deed in the future. Just like a car, when you finance the car versus leasing the car, you pay every month, right? You drive the car, you're responsible for maintaining the car, right? Registering the car and everything, it's yours, right? But when do you get the title? When does the car actually transfer to your name? Once you're done paying, okay? So contract for deed is financing or purchasing and getting the deed in the future, just like car financing, okay? That's pretty much what I just read here. And what you need to remember, which is at the end of the period, whatever we determine, the end of the period, you get the deed. Okay? Oh, it is not the same as title. That was the third day. Well, that's why it's different. The car, the title transfers to your name, and they have a certificate of title. That's what it is. All right, guys? Good on this one? That was easy, right? Of course it was. I thought you were going to say that your favorite part is this. The end of a chapter. All right. Let's see. It's now 7:23. 7:30, guys. We're gonna take a quick break. YouTubers, we're gonna get back at 7:30. So I'm gonna close this session and open another one in a little bit. All right. See you guys.